Hey everyone, welcome to Careers Out There. I'm your host Mark Luber, and we're helping you find a career that fits you. Today's going to be a great episode for any of you interested in green jobs. Did you know there's actually a role where you can help make sure that new buildings and new constructions are made as green or sustainable as the owners and developers want them to be? That job's called a lead AP, or a green building consultant. Our guest today is a green building consultant named Debbie in Los Angeles, and she's going to tell us all about that career path. It's going to be a great episode, so stick around. Hey Debbie, thank you for joining us at Careers Out There today.
My pleasure.
So you, Debbie, are on a very hot career path right now. You've got one of those green jobs. We're all hearing about green jobs, and a lot of people in America don't know anybody who actually has a green job, and you have one. So it's got to feel pretty exciting for you to have that right now.
Yeah, you bet it does. It's great to have a green job because it's much more ecologically friendly and it's helping people build and do things in a much more sustainable way so that we help sustain our environment for future generations.
That's excellent. It's a noble cause. It's a noble cause.
One thing I can say about green building is that it is changing the way people are thinking about building. Instead of thinking of a building as a thing in the environment, just as an isolated object, we're now thinking of buildings as organisms in a way that interact with our natural environment. One of the other aspects of green building that we also try to include is the comfort and the well-being of the building occupants, because for us as architects, the occupant is who the building is for, and so that is our main goal.
As a green building consultant then, working on that with that goal in mind all the time, what do you do?
What I do is, as a green building consultant, I help project teams that are on a building project incorporate sustainable practices in their projects. Usually, I'm not the designer of the buildings. I work with the architects, the contractors, all the engineers and consultants on the project, along with the building owner to make sure that they get what they want in a building. But what I do is I facilitate the incorporation of sustainable measures. There's a system that grades buildings on how green they are by points. It's called a LEED, Leadership in Energy Efficiency Design. And what we do is we help project teams meet these points and document them so that their buildings can become certified as to whether they are very green or somewhat green or just at least thinking about green.
Give us an example, Debbie, of the type of project that you'd be working on so that we could all kind of see how it all comes together.
All right. An example of a project we'd work on, we usually work on commercial projects for our company. And an example would be of a warehouse that we recently finished in an industrial area. There are serious water issues in California. And so we made sure that we treated our stormwater in a way that doesn't let it run off the site. There are other issues like energy efficiency. We switched out our typical warehouse cooling system for a swamp cooling system, which is much more energy efficient. And so we were able to save a lot of energy, something like 38% of energy from regular conventional buildings on that one. So we think about conservation, efficiency, and also the way that materials are procured and disposed of from the building project. So when the contractor ordered products, they ordered things that were some things were recycled, other things came from the location nearby so that they wouldn't have to be transported very far, which would save on fuel and which contributes more to efficiency. And then also when they disposed of waste from the construction, they made sure that it went to a recycling plant so that it didn't go into the landfill. When building a greener building, I would say that to an advantage of the building owner, because it has been found that tenants who occupy those buildings see it as a much greater value for their money, because they know that a green building is better for the environment. It's much more energy and water efficient, so that way their water and energy bills go down. Not only that, the building has been designed so that they don't have a lot of toxic materials, so it's healthier for you. You tend to get more daylight, you get better thermal comfort, because all these things are factored in as part of a green building. So I would say that on the whole, a green building, even though it may cost slightly more, usually it's about 2 to 3% more of a conventional building, which isn't very much considering the life of the building. I would say that it's a win for everybody involved.
That's good to hear. When you say the lighting, the daylight, so then someone sitting at their desk who's always complaining about that horrible overhead lighting that's shining on them as they're using their computer or trying to read documents, they wouldn't have to deal with that as much because real light is coming in from outdoors. Is that right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool. So walk us through a typical day. Let us get an idea of what a regular day is in the life of someone who is a green building consultant.
All right. Well, typically in a day, I will be speaking to all members of a project team. It would include representatives for the owner. It would include a contractor, the architects, the engineers, which would include the civil engineers, the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers, and sometimes an energy modeler. And all these people are thinking about how this building is going to integrate to be more sustainable, and how we are going to show the LEED certification body that we are actually meeting the requirements of the point system that they have. So a lot of what I do is educating on that end, and then also helping them document their compliance with their LEED credits.
Is this the kind of conversation that someone could have if they don't have a strong technical mind? For example, I was an English major in college. I have a feeling that if I was sitting down trying to do your job, I would be completely lost. I would have no clue what I'm doing. Am I right? Is this the kind of field that is really for a technical brain?
I would say to a certain extent, yes. Having a really good background in knowing the process for building and construction is really helpful. So first of all, you would know what the issues for sustainability are, and secondly, you would know what the process is for building, and third, you would also know who interacts with whom to get the job done. And with all those three areas, you have a good idea of how to implement a sustainable building.
And to go back to the point system for the sustainable buildings, you were mentioning that there were points that the people are getting based on certain aspects of the building. Is it your job then to help them figure out, okay, as it is right now, there's not enough points. Here's what we could tweak here or what we could tweak there, and this will help you get that right point score so that you can be certified as a green building. Is that a part of your job?
Yes, actually, strategizing is a part of our job. We try not to strategize in order just to get points. We try to strategize to maximize the amount of sustainability for the project, so that the project team gets credit for including sustainable measures in their project. Because sometimes, even though the point system is there, maybe the team has done something slightly different away from the point system that is still meeting the intent. And so to strategize in order to include that feature in the building is one of the ways that we help our team do that. And then we also help them see synergies between strategies, so that say you save a lot of water on your toilets and your faucets. Well, there's another point in this LEED system that gives you credit for reducing your wastewater. So if you save enough water from your toilets and your faucets, then you're also eliminating a lot of wastewater from the project, and so you can gain another point. So it's strategies like that that
Mm-hmm.
helps the 2 points synergize together.
It's interesting how it's all connected. One thing leads to the other.
That's right. It's true.
So what's the
And
most
that's
fun part of this? What's the most rewarding aspect for you?
I think the education part for me is the most rewarding part because it's you're what I'm doing is helping people see and and in a way I feel that I'm enlightening them and it helps them feel like they're doing something good for not just for their pocketbook, but they can also do something good for the environment as well. It's an all-encompassing sort of a job, and that's what I like about it.
What about education? What would somebody need first as far as a background in school? What type of degree? And then what type of certification or licenses do people need in order to get a position like yours?
As far as education goes, it would be good to have an education in environmental science, which is a somewhat new type of education background that people can get nowadays. My own education included architecture, but I know that people in interior design can do what I do. A lot of architects do what I do, um, but mainly in order to go through the LEED process, a LEED accredited professional certification is needed. Other than that, even somebody who might have been a contractor or is one, engineers can do what I do, and also people who are in development would be ideal for this job.
And the LEED certification exam that you took, is that a real challenging test? Is that the kind of thing where people need to do a lot of prep work, almost like taking the SAT or the MCAT or the LSAT?
There are a lot of areas to be covered on it, and it's not exactly a very easy test. It's a 2-hour test at minimum to get a green associate certification, and then for an accredited professional, it's another 2 hours of testing. So yeah, definitely prepare for that LEED exam.
Okay. Hear that, everybody? Take it seriously. It's not a cakewalk. Okay, personality type. What's a good personality type for doing what you do? It sounds like you have to be able to deal with talking to a wide variety of people in largely technical type positions. Is that
Having the patience to explain something to somebody, having a good rapport with people so that you can get the best out of them and help them along, help them learn, help them to be able to learn what you're doing so that they can at least in turn do it for themselves. Being a people person, um, being firm about what you're standing for, and also seeing the benefits for everybody.
and what about skill sets? Certain skill sets beyond the degree, beyond the technical.
For what I do, organization is a very important part of what I do because the LEED certification part of what I do requires that you keep track of all the points that you're going after and keeping track of all the documentation and being able to remember it all and also being able to explain to all the team members or the involved team members where you are in the process. So being process oriented in a way because most of what I do is process. It's not necessarily goal oriented. So those two things are really important skill sets.
Hmm. Now, you weren't always a green building consultant. Green building consulting is fairly new. What were you doing before this?
Before this, I was working in an architectural office. I was working in a residential firm as a drafter and what they call a job captain, um, making sure that all the documentation was put together for the houses we were working on, and making sure that all the documents were coordinated with all the consultants, like the engineers and the acoustical people and whatever have you.
And how would you say working in a regular architecture firm doing conventional projects differs from working in a green building firm?
There is a much more holistic view of design in a way that encompasses not just the environment, but encompasses people's well-being. And I believe that it has a much more positive vision for the future. Whereas in a conventional firm, I didn't see, there was just a vision for the object of the building itself. For me, in a sustainable building firm, I see much more of a vision of the future and of the way our future can be.
Let's say this all sounds good to me, whether I'm in high school or college or I'm out there working at a traditional architecture firm, and I really want to go for this. What kind of advice would you give me as far as an action plan for things I could do now?
Well, first of all, for high school, I would think about what you're interested in. If you're interested in buildings, like as an architect or somebody who's just interested in the environment, a career in environmental science is out there now. It wasn't out there about 10 years ago. If it had been, I would have done something like that. In college, well, environmental science, obviously, every major has a connection to this. For example, economics is not just financial. Economics includes resources, natural resources, and the way that we value those natural resources. So even if you're in a job already, educate yourself on how this relates to your job. The energy that we use, the water that we use, the resources that we use, how does that affect what you do, and what are the issues associated with it?
There's a book that I want to recommend to everybody, and I'll put a link on the site too. Natural Capitalism by Paul Hawken and both of the Lovins, and it teaches all aspects, not just of green building, but of green city planning and all the ways that we could change how we run our society and how we live while completely sustaining the economy. It is not an economy-crushing book. It is not a downer saying we're all going to die and drown, and it is a very uplifting book saying how we can still make a huge difference to save our planet, save our health, and to continue to grow our businesses just in a responsible way, if we could all just take responsibility. So what would you say, Debbie, what's the biggest challenge? What would you say, if you can't handle this, then being a green building consultant is not for you? What would that be?
Well, obviously, if you didn't think there was a problem with the environment, then that would not, green building would not be for you. Because if you don't realize that we need to be stewards of our environment, there's really not much that you're going to be driven in order to learn the things that you need to know to be a green building consultant. Sometimes it is stressful. There are parts of the project or parts of the process that require somebody who comes along, a third party that comes along and makes sure that the contractor is doing what the design documents say, for instance, on the project. And sometimes there's a lot of conflict that goes with that because there's liability issues. Say the contractor didn't do something to code and this third party person comes in and says, oh, this is not right. Then there are issues of, well, who does what? Who's responsible for paying for what, and who's liable for this? So it can become very tense. It can be a very stressful sort of thing. But in that case, this third party person is double checking its quality control for the whole project. So it's improving the project, in my opinion.
So Debbie, what's the next step for you? Where do you want to take this?
I want to take this personally. I want to take this back into the architectural firm. I would like to find another conventional firm to work in, but I want to take this knowledge that I have to be able to apply it into the design process.
So you'll help shift the other side of the world over to the green side.
I hope so.
Have them leave the dark side.
Exactly.
So if I'm watching this video and I've decided maybe I'm already on the path to taking the LEED exam, and I know I want to go down the same path you're on, what kind of tips can you give as far as what you see people looking for who are on the hiring side? Whether it's your company working with you or whether it's someone else's company, what should someone know if they're hitting the pavement now to get on your path?
I would say the first thing that I would look for is a commitment to sustainable design and to the importance that it has in shaping the way we build. Secondly, I would look for a knowledge of the issues that are involved and a thirst for more knowledge, to understand, because the thing about green building is that it's changing constantly, and there are always new technologies, there are always new ways of thought in order to help us better the building environment. So that, and also a knowledge of the building and construction process, knowing what it means to get a building built, who's involved and how everyone is involved, and also just passion, I would say.
And you clearly have that for what you do.
Thanks.
Definitely. So give us some keys to success. What are some good keys to success for someone in your space?
I think always having a good attitude is a good key to success. When you see people that you're working with as assets to what your goal is, that is always a positive reinforcer of getting that goal done.
Debbie, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us at Careers Out There.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.
All right. Thanks again to Debbie for sharing her time with us. We hope you guys learned a lot about being a green building consultant. And if you have any questions or feedback, please leave them in the comments section below. We'd love to help you out, and we'd love to hear from you. Thanks again for watching Careers Out There. I'm Mark Luber, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.